welcome back to the R&B News Report. As we all know, the leftists are using the educational system at their disposal to indoctrinate their students and enslave them. Now, I'll use this same approach, except I do not indoctrinate and convert people. I simply am trying to appeal to the young people to use common sense and rationale in order to be able to distinguish the indoctrination from the simple education. And the leftists will indoctrinate you, whereas what I'm trying to do is to free you, cause you to use your mind. Now, in Europe has already become enslaved, and what I mean by enslavement is when they are teaching a doctrine which is totally unnatural to the human being. Socialism, as an example, is not compatible to the nature of mankind. Socialism says everybody works for the collective. That's a word that the socialists liked to use when I was going to college. They referred to the collectivists, to the collective, and they referred to socialism as collectivism. So even back when I was in college, they were trying to get away from that term socialism because they knew that people had understood and associated that term in a derogatory manner, and with good reason. Now, the difference between the leftists and me is that first off, I'm not trying to indoctrinate you. As I said, I simply am trying to inform you as to how the left has, over the past 50 years or so, brainwashed the population. There are countries where people actually think that socialism is perfectly natural. It's because they have been brainwashed over 50 years. And even today, we know that the leftists have infiltrated the universities, they've infiltrated the high schools, even the grade schools, they've infiltrated into various aspects of government, so that what they're trying to do, and this is something that Karl Marx, the founder, taught his followers, was to get a hold of the population and re-educate them. Now, we have this doctrine in the United States, which consists of what the Founding Fathers preserved for us. They fought Britain at a time when Britain was under the tyranny of King George. So the colonies were fighting King George, not necessarily the British. The British were just simply in the middle of it all. So the Founding Fathers, what I recommend that everybody do is study the documents left by the Founding Fathers. That includes the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, which also consists of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. The amendments are what we commonly refer to as the Bill of Rights. One of those Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, specifically is at threat today, and it has been at threat by the leftists for as long as I can remember. They have been anti-gun. Now, the Second Amendment to the Constitution is what guarantees the populace the right to own and possess and bear firearms. Why is that such a critical thing? It is a right because we cannot necessarily trust the government. Our Founding Fathers saw this. Not only do you need guns to protect yourself from possible, criminals, but if you go hiking in the wilderness, I do from time to time go into the wilderness. And if you go to the wilderness, and I'm talking about true wilderness, I'm not talking about going to the local camp or the local park or nature preserve. I'm talking about going out 100 miles away from any civilization, any people, All you're going to find out there is bears and wildcats and who knows what you're going to find out there. But you're going to find animals that are predators. If you don't have a gun, then chances are you will end up being dinner for a bear or a wild animal of some sort. So that is one of the reasons, but it is not the only reason. The true reason that the populace has the right to own and bear firearms is simply to protect themselves and their free society from the invasion or the occupation or takeover of a tyrannical group of people. And this is what is the greatest threat to the left, because with the left you have two groups of people. You have the leaders, and then you have the followers, the drones, the ones that are brainwashed. Now, the leaders consist of quite a variety of different types of people. You have the tyrants, the narcissists, who think that, they can just come in and just dictate to the entire populace of what we're going to think, what we're going to do, where we're going to live, what we're going to eat, what we're going to watch on TV. They are the thought police. Now, they are the ones that every society has them, every generation has them, and since the dawning of mankind, we have had those kind of people. We always will. Those are the ones that we have to protect ourselves against. The Founding Fathers, in their infinite wisdom, left us with the knowledge to continue a free society. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of private ownership of guns. These are all left to us by the Founding Fathers. I've always said these Bill of Rights should be engraved in stone. Now, the left for 50 some odd years and longer than that have been brainwashing the population in every society, every country, trying to convince the population that they don't need guns. Well, first off, we know that the police have even enacted laws, or legislators have actually enacted laws that say that the police are not responsible to protect you. So there have been cases where somebody is beating a person mercilessly to death while the police just stood by and did nothing. Well, so you can't go back and sue the police because they failed to protect you. When it all comes down to it, you are on your own. And if you're a woman and you fear being raped, you have good reason. If a criminal class of people know that your particular community, by law, is unarmed, well, the criminal class will know that your community is easy picking. Because brainwashing is the only way to passively enslave a population by changing their way of thinking. If you, the listener, have not watched the movie The Matrix, The Matrix is a movie that came out a number of years ago, and it is an excellent movie to watch. This will be your first assignment. And the star in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, is Keanu Reeves. An example of brainwashing is the whole gun control issue and how it violates the Constitution. Now, a gun is an inanimate object, the same as a screwdriver, a hammer, a key. It exists to serve a purpose. It is a tool and nothing more. What is done with this inanimate object rests in the hands of the individual. But it more simply, the gun does not kill, the individual kills. Now, we all know that in our society, as in every society, we have certain people who are not competent. They might be suffering a mental disorder, which would make them a threat to the population, a danger. Now, in the case with this recent shooting at a little grade school with little children, the woman who was the parent of the killer The killer himself was not mentally competent. That's obvious. The mother owned and possessed guns, which she was perfectly legally entitled to own and possess. However, in my judgment, my opinion is her first mistake was to teach her son to participate in going to the rifle range and shooting guns. A person who is mentally stable, in my opinion, should not be anywhere near a gun. This is common sense because they're not operating with their full mental capacity. That was her mistake, and ultimately she paid the ultimate price for that mistake. Unfortunately, a lot of other innocent people suffered the mistake. However, taking guns away from an entire population is not the answer. Perhaps the answer is for security to be in every school, or every teacher and every principal, provided that they also are mentally competent and have been trained in proper safety and self-defense. Perhaps that would have prevented this mass killing. That would be my answer, not stripping the entire populace of their rights as guaranteed in the Second Amendment. At this point, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.